The movie opens 3 years after the previous events of the first film. The survivors of previous battle royales have formed a rebel group called the Wild Seven, led by Shuya Nanahara. However, this rebel group is now considered an international terrorist group. So, in the name of justice, the government authorities have introduced a new game, the Millennium Anti-Terrorism Act, aka Battle Royale 2. The scene then cuts to Shikano Toride Middle School, which is considered to be a ragtag collection of losers and delinquents from all across the country. Turns out that all of the students there are written off by the government with no guaranteed future. One day, all 42 students of the 9th grade are tricked into going on a field trip, but they are drugged to fall asleep on the way. When they regain their consciousness, they find strange electric collars around their necks. The bus is hijacked by the authoritarian Japanese government, and they are taken to a military base. Upon arrival, the students are herded into a cage, surrounded by armed guards. In a state of panic, the young boys and girls desperately try to escape, but their efforts are all in vain. Shortly after, the students are confronted by their school teacher, Takeuchi Riki, who reveals himself to be one of the adults working with the government. He tells the students that they've been selected as the first group to play the new Battle Royale game. Following this, he proceeds to lay down the rules of the game. Their prime objective is to track down and kill the entire Wild Seven members within 72 hours. Instead of being forced to kill each other, as in the previous Battle Royale, the students must go to war against the Wild Seven. Ricky provides them with two choices: participate in the war or be executed right away. Fearing for their lives, all the students reluctantly agree to enter the death game, except for one student. As a consequence, he's instantly executed, much to everyone's horror. Moments later, a girl's collar starts beeping. Riki then discloses another revelation. All the students' collars have been paired. If one student dies or goes beyond the range, then his or her partner will be automatically killed via collar detonation. This freaks out the girl and she begs for mercy, but the collar eventually takes her life. That guy was hoping to be a pacifist, but he failed. In the aftermath, all 40 students are provided with their armor and weapons before dispatching for their mission. They are sent via boats onto an island, which Wild Seven have taken control of and are using as a fortress. Upon nearing the island, Wild Seven group members, who believe them to be soldiers, immediately open fire. These intense gunshots take the lives of 12 students before they can even reach the island. The rest of the survivors somehow manage to make it to the island, but they split up into two groups, one running across the beach, while the other takes cover behind the rocks. Not long after, a helicopter flies overhead that releases several supplies for them. Following this, the students begin to run to secure the supplies, containing various useful things such as a grenade launcher, ammo, and first aid kits. The students then make a run for a better cover, but one of them, Shugo, gets shot in the process. The fellow classmates try their best to treat his wounds, but the bleeding just won't stop. Just then, his collar starts beeping, and they realize that his partner Miki is beyond the safety range. They urge her to run towards the group, assuring her that they'll cover for her. However, the nervous girl runs away from the group instead, which gets her blown up. Now that his partner's dead, Shugo is well aware of his imminent fate. As a result, he makes a brave decision to take down some enemies before he dies. He then walks out to the open area and fires, but he's shot down by an enemy sniper. After this tragic loss, the rest of the students run towards a ruined building, while Riki announces the names of the deceased. Once there, one of the students, Haruka Kuze, pulls out some insulin and administers it into her body. When a boy student, Takuma Aoi, asks about it, Kuze reveals that she's diabetic since birth and that her dose will last for just 3 days. So, if they don't complete their mission quickly, she'll run out of insulin. That seems like the least of any of their problems right now. Suddenly, an explosion goes off outside and a squad goes to investigate. Much to their horror, they witness a student hanging from a pole with both of his limbs severed. They quickly realize that the area is filled with landmines and that they're right in the middle of a minefield. Seconds later, a girl's collar starts beeping, which freaks out the other students. The situation escalates further when the group members start to argue over their next move. The other squad hears the commotion over the comm line, so Aoi intends to rush for their help. Regardless, a girl named Shiori holds him at gunpoint and asserts that she won't let him go anywhere until they complete their mission, probably because they're partners. Here, it's revealed that Shiori is none other than the daughter of a teacher whom Nanahara killed 3 years ago. Ever since then, she has been working on avenging her father's death. On the other hand, the boy's severed body falls into the minefield, setting off a chain reaction of more explosions. This incident claims several lives, reducing the number of survivors to 18. Following this, both groups of students reunite and make their way towards the fortress. It is set up on a steep hill, which is a great disadvantage for the students. Regardless, they manage to dodge the enemy bullets and eventually break into the fortress. Once inside, they notice a little girl running away. So, the team chases after her, but suddenly, several explosions go off, which catches them off guard. Before they can react, the lights turn on and dozens of guns are pointed at them. The rebels demand that they disarm themselves, but one of the students opens fire. As a result, a fierce shootout ensues between the two parties. By the end of it, 6 more students lose their lives, causing their partners' collars to activate. Upon seeing their collars, the so-called terrorists realize that they are not soldiers. They then quickly bring a huge device and generate an electromagnetic pulse that shuts down all the collars, also thwarting their connection with the military base. In the base camp, Battle Royale administrators are shocked to learn that all the collars have suddenly gone offline. They quickly think of an alternative and deploy a special force to finish the job. Back in the fortress, all the students are disarmed and are brought in front of Nanahara. There, the students notice several aligned dead bodies of the Wild 7 members. They also find many children who have been orphaned after their parents' deaths in the war. Shortly after, they are approached by Nanahara, who asks if killing them will really solve anything. He further claims that they will never be able to live a normal life, even if they're successful in their mission. As a result, he vows to keep on fighting until the government offers them a peaceful life. Upon realizing that the rebels are not their enemy, the students decide to change their side and help the Wild 7 end the Battle Royale for good. In the next scene, the Special Armed Force arrives in the fortress. One of the rebels spots them and runs to warn the rest of the group. Reacting swiftly, the rebels, now accompanied by the students, rush to confront the threat. When the soldiers notice them, they contact their base to report about the students changing sides. After a while of intense gunfight, the rebels eventually manage to take down all the armed forces. However, Kuze dies in the process. Infuriated by this, Aoi puts the blame on Nanahara, claiming that he is no better than the cruel government. Meanwhile, Shiori goes to an abandoned room where she finds a piano. As she starts playing it, she recalls her past, about how she used to play it at home. One day, she was in her room playing the piano when her father walked in. She was clearly upset because her father had forgotten her birthday. As a result, she coldly rebuffed him, unaware that it would be their last interaction. It's the 3rd day of the mission, and all the students have been freed from their explosive collars. Nanahara, who realizes that he needs global support to defeat the government, sends a video message to the world. In the message, he states that everyone must have the right to live a free and peaceful life. Upon briefing their ongoing predicament, he calls on all the youth of the world to rebel against the cruelty. But in response to the video, a missile is released upon the island, killing even more students and the Wild 7 members. The chaos causes everyone to scramble in a desperate bid to save themselves. On the other hand, the Battle Royale administrators receive a video call from the Prime Minister, who informs them that the missile was released by the United States. Moreover, they've warned Japan that they'll attack again in 12 hours if the situation isn't resolved. So, in order to evade the imminent threat, the Prime Minister takes command of the military present at the Battle Royale headquarters. He then deploys all the soldiers to wipe out the entire Wild 7 once and for all. Riki is enraged by the change of actions. Amidst this heated argument, he reveals to have the same type of collar on his neck as the students. Back on the island, survivors honor fallen comrades by cremating their bodies and firing into the sky. At this moment, Nanahara reveals his plan for the students and children to retreat to the mainland via a mine shaft, while the Wild 7 will stay behind to confront the soldiers. The next morning, the students and children bid a final goodbye to the Wild 7. Following this, all of them, except for Shiori, make their way to the mine shaft, while the Wild 7 prepare for their final battle against the military force. Not long after, hundreds of armed soldiers arrive at the island. The Wild 7 try everything they can to put up the fight. They use every weapon they have against the charging soldiers, even going as far as to blare Joe Rogan over the loudspeakers, but are clearly unable to stop them from advancing and are eventually outnumbered. In the meantime, the students who are running through the tunnel hear the gunfire. Sensing that the rebels need backup, Aoi and 2 of his friends make a brave decision to return to the battlefield. They join the fight and begin shooting down as many soldiers as they can. The 2 friends sacrifice their lives, but not before launching a huge rocket launcher, taking down a bunch of assailants. Elsewhere, one of the female rebels realizes that the soldiers are closing in, so she urges the rest of her comrades to leave, while she herself stays behind to earn them some time. Heeding to her instruction, the other rebels leave, after which she activates a time bomb before getting killed. The intense combat causes heavy casualties on both sides, leaving Nanahara, Aoi, and Shiori as the only remaining fighters. The trio manages to take down the Special Forces captain, but this isn't enough to end the battle. While they try to evacuate, Riki shows up and expresses his support for the rebels. Just then, the collar on his neck starts beeping, so he urges the trio to get out of there immediately. The three of them manage to exit just a few seconds before the entire fortress blows up. Despite making it out of the stronghold, the battle isn't over yet, as they still have to face numerous soldiers outside. As the war rages on, one of the bullets strikes Shiori, leaving her fatally wounded. Seeing this, Nanahara runs towards her, while Aoi keeps on fighting alone. Before she dies in his arms, she reveals herself to be Kitano's daughter, leaving him shocked for a moment. However, she forgives him for killing her father, because she now knows what he's really fighting for. After taking a moment to mourn, Nanahara and Aoi press on to fight with unwavering determination. Soon after, the US releases several missiles that blow up the entire island, killing all the remaining soldiers. Finally, the battle royale ends on avoided status, listing the fates of Nanahara, Aoi, and the surviving students as unknown. The scene then fast forwards to 3 months later, where Nanahara and Aoi are driving through the Afghan desert. There, they reunite with the rest of their surviving teammates, bringing them great joy. They all regroup as friends, but what lies next for them remains unknown.